Hello there, very good evening. This is the weekend edition of Primetime News on TV1 for the News First, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this evening.
Additional fuel stock to the local market. Fuel queues to end in 2 days. Water tariff increased. Service charges up by 500%. UNICEF calls for the world to help Sri Lanka overcome child malnourishment. Was Sri Lanka adequately compensated for the Express Pearl disaster?
$මිලියන 22ක මුදලක වන්දියක් ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා. නමුත් $1 442ක් විතරයි අපට ලබා දීලා තියෙන්නේ.
Yuanwang 5 spotted in the seas south of Sri Lanka. Chinese ambassador in Kandy to meet the Mahanayaka. Indian High Commissioner cancels Kandy visit.
Now the stories in detail. Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Kee Zhen-hong, was in Kandy on Saturday, and Indian High Commissioner Gopal Bagle was also supposed to be in the hill capital, but he cancelled his visit later in the day.
Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Kee Zhen-hong, visited the Asgiri Mahaviharaya on Saturday evening and called on the most venerable Varakagoda Sri Nyanatana Thera, the Mahanayaka of the Asgiri chapter of the Siam sect. Thereafter, the ambassador visited the Malwatu Mahaviharaya and called on the most venerable Tibbatuwave Sri Sumangala Thera, the Mahanayaka of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect.
Everybody knows that Buddhism is play a very important role in our bilateral relations. Our relations are based on people-to-people understandings. Buddhism is Buddhist circles enhance exchanges. Yeah, so that will lay sound foundation for cooperation. Second, I visit the two places. Is that to the China Buddhism Association now mobilize quite a lot the resources. They're trying to help the Sri Lankan counterpart.
Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Gopal Bagle was supposed to visit Kandy on Saturday as well. However, he cancelled his tour. A spokesperson for the Assistant High Commissioner of India in Kandy said the visit was cancelled due to a sudden illness.
Concerns are mounting again about the operations of Chinas Yuanwang 5. According to a report, the vessel is located away from the sea of Sri Lanka.
After leaving Hambantota port on the 22nd of August, the Chinese satellite and ballistic missile tracking ship Yuanwang 5 is currently mapping the ocean bed 400 nautical miles southeast of Tondra Head, the southernmost tip of Sri Lanka. According to available information, the military ship is expected to head towards its home port, Jiangyin near Shanghai, as per details provided at Hambantota. However, it is not clear whether the ship will make another port call while on the way back to China. Although classified as a Chinese research vessel, the ballistic missile tracker ship became a bone of contention, with Sri Lankan authorities allowing the ship to berth at Hambantota on the 16th of August, after initially deferring the port call on 11th August. Hambantota port is on a 99-year lease with the Chinese after Sri Lanka, under the Beijing-friendly Rajapaksa regime, did a debt equity swap with Xi Jinping's regime in 2017. According to China watchers, the berthing of Yuanwang 5 at Hambantota was a political statement of assertion by Xi Jinping regime on the weak Ranil Wickremesinghe government after India quietly conveyed its concerns about the military ship.
Sri Lankan High Commissioner to India, Milinda Moragoda, had called for building a new framework to deal with such maritime security concerns in the future. The envoy's comments came amid signs of New Delhi's disappointment over Colombo's decision to allow a Chinese tracking vessel to dock in Hambantota.
Speaking to the Hindu, High Commissioner Milinda Morogoda said that Colombo had kept the Modi government briefed at the highest levels through the controversy surrounding the Chinese satellite and missile tracking ship, the Yuanwang 5. In an unusually public move, the Modi government had last month conveyed its concerns over the docking of the ship, believed to be a satellite research and surveillance vessel. While the Sri Lankan government had asked China to defer the ship's plans entirely after India's objections, the Chinese government had only agreed to delay its arrival in Hambantota by a few days, and eventually the Yuanwang 5 docked at the port from the 16th to the 22nd of August. According to Morogoda, the permission for the docking had been granted to China amidst a period of political turmoil in Colombo when President Ranil Wickremesinghe took charge, as well as the economic crisis leading to not enough attention being given to the case. According to official data, the visit of the ship had also followed after at least 10 research vessels of a different class had docked in Colombo between 2019 to 2020 without raising any concerns in Delhi. The High Commissioner said that in this particular case, there could have been a level of confusion in Colombo when it came to differentiating between the classes of vessels and technologies involved. He said that unfortunately, once the approvals were given, it was hard to take them back, adding that Sri Lanka was hoping to focus on strengthening lines of communication as well as high-level exchanges and people-to-people ties. The Hindu reported, citing sources, that both Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Ranil Wickremesinghe are expected to travel to Tokyo to attend former Japan Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's state funeral. The Hindu report added that in a possible sign of the strain in ties over the issue, the Ministry of External Affairs had issued a rare travel guidance on Thursday, cautioning Indian tourists about visiting Sri Lanka, which is in the middle of a deep economic crisis. Without commenting on the Ministry of External Affairs advisory, Morogoda said it was important to look to the future of ties, particularly in terms of India-Sri Lanka cooperation in the economic and strategic sphere. Apart from economic assistance of $3.8 billion, including credit lines from India, New Delhi and Colombo are discussing more trade ties, a power-sharing grid, and infrastructure projects in renewable energy and oil storage. India has also supported Sri Lanka in talks with the International Monetary Fund for a bailout.
Another round of talks between President Ranil Wickremesinghe and the visiting International Monetary Fund team was held on Friday with the aim of finding solutions to the ongoing financial crisis in the country.
Sri Lanka President Ranil Wickremesinghe and the visiting IMF staff team on Friday held a second round of crucial talks to finalize a bailout package for the struggling island nation. The President's media division said President Wickremesinghe joined the conversation via Zoom and positive ideas were exchanged between both sides. The International Monetary Fund had made a request for additional information pertaining to electricity tariff revisions and the Excise Act, and it was decided at Friday's meeting to provide the requested information by next Monday, the 29th of August. The President's media division said that financial and legal advisors of the IMF participated in the meeting and the next round of discussion is scheduled for the 31st of August. The IMF staff team met with President Wickremesinghe for the first round of talks on the 24th of August.
UNICEF Regional Director for South Asia, George Larrier says the current economic crisis in Sri Lanka is pushing more and more families to place their children in institutional care, mainly as a result of poverty, as they are no longer able to care for them.
UNICEF Regional Director for South Asia, George Larrier was speaking to reporters in Colombo on Friday, the 26th, following a visit to the country.
You all know that there are some 6 million plus children in the country, and about 4.8 of them are in the school sector, or the school-going age. Sri Lanka has been a star when it comes to human development, especially health and education. This is the strength of the country. It's taken decades of investment, and these gains are important because the country has been an example to others. So health, education have to be safeguarded. Investments in health and education have to be protected, and we all have a responsibility, and therefore I'm inviting the international community to pay particular attention to this, that any discussion should not compromise investment in health and education.
Larieya Ajay said families are skipping regular meals as staple foods become unaffordable, adding that children are going to bed hungry, unsure of where their next meal will come from. He also added that if the current trends continues, hard-earned progress for children in Sri Lanka is at a risk of being reversed and in some cases erased permanently.
In the context of this progress that has been made in the country, there are still some gaps. One such gap is the unfortunate incidence of malnutrition, especially among children. Globally, Sri Lanka is number 6 when it comes to the situation of malnutrition of children, especially child wasting. It can get to a moderate level, but it can quickly get to a severe level, and that can lead to the death of a child, or it can lead to a lot of damage to child growth and development. Sri Lanka, pre-crisis, was not in a very good place on this issue. So our concern is that with the rise in prices, with the challenges in the food sector, with the pressures on family income, with the pressures on parents, this could exacerbate an already serious problem with child wasting. So again, my call is for this problem to receive specific attention, because the consequence could be a reversal of some of the gains that the country has made in terms of mortality or in terms of child development.
Sri Lanka is currently experiencing an increase in the prices of eggs, chicken and fish.
In Sri Lanka, eggs are inexpensive sources of protein and other important nutrients that can be easily provided to the children from low-income families. What used to be inexpensive is now very expensive as the prices of eggs have skyrocketed. In early August, the Sri Lankan authorities imposed a maximum retail price for an egg, but that directive is limited to a piece of paper in most areas in the country. On Saturday, it was observed that many areas were experiencing a shortage of eggs. Though reports claim of a shortage of eggs, this was the situation at the Kuliapitia egg farm. Large quantities of eggs were piled up at the farm as buyers have not turned up to make purchases. These eggs are being destroyed inside the farm premises.
ස්ටොක් තියෙනවා බිත්තර ටික දී ගන්න විදියක් නැහැ වෙලෙන්දෙන් අවිලා මේවා බිත්තර ගෙනියන්නෙත් නැහැ සතු 8000ක් විතර ඉරු ෆාම් එකේ දැන් දැනට ඉතුරු වෙලා ඉන්නේ සතු 1800ක් විතර 52ක 53ක වියදමක් යනවා බිත්තරයක් නිෂ්පාදනය කරන්න දවසකට බිත්තරයකින් රුපියල් 10ක් 12ක පාඩුවක් වෙනවා
මේකට දැන් විසඳුමක් දෙන්නෙත් නැහැ ගැසට් එක අයින් කරන්නෙත් නැහැ බිත්තර ලක්ෂ 2ක් තුනක් තියෙනවා මේ ස්ටොක් කරලා දැන් අපිටත් මේ බිත්තර කුණු කර විසුක් කරන්න වෙන්නේ.
The price of a kilo of chicken remains at a high and local price is fixed around 1,400 rupees per kilogram or more.
කිලෝ එකක් 1400ක් වෙනවා.
කිලෝ එකක් දැන් 1380යි. එතකොට ඒ වගේ අපහසු තත්ත්වයේ තියෙනකොට මිනිස්සු එන එක අඩුයි ගොඩක්.
At the same time, the price of fish in the local market has also increased. Newsfirst contacted the Minister of Food Security, Nalin Fernando, and he said a decision will be reached on the prices of chicken and fish. He said that the Consumer Affairs Authority is already obtaining data on cost production for chicken in Sri Lanka.
As the island goes through its worst economic crisis, what is the status of farmlands across Sri Lanka?
As Sri Lanka is experiencing an acute food shortage resulting in a high rate of malnourishment, only 4,000 of the available 7,000 paddy lands in the Mahavilachi agrarian settlement in Anuradhapura have been cultivated due to the fuel and fertilizer shortage. Sri Lanka is now in the harvesting season. However, local farmers are warning that if this situation continues, Sri Lanka will have to face a rice shortage in the near future.
According to estimates, the machinery costs 25,000, another 20,000 to reap the harvest, 70,000 rupees for the compost bottle. The total comes to around 125,000 rupees. When we sell the harvest, we are left with no profit. So far, we were only able to get 40% of the harvest. I don't think that would be left with even a single grain of rice to even feed our children porridge. We are completely helpless. Only God is there to look after us.
Farmers urge the relevant authorities to understand this dangerous situation and to provide them with practical solutions.
Survival is a struggle for many Sri Lankans today, and this is a story of one family living in a disaster-prone area.
In Sri Lanka today, hundreds of thousands of people are struggling to survive and provide for their families. This is the Ambalakanda village, located not far from the Aranayaka Samasara mountain in the Kegol district. Many from this village were evacuated to safer locations after the Samasara mountain in Aranayaka gave way and led to a massive natural disaster in 2016. But Vijay Singha and his family, including 5 children who have nowhere to go, continue to reside in the unsafe Ambalakanda village, which can be termed as a death trap. Vijay Singha was a daily wage earner, but now there is not much work for him in this empty village. Wildlife encroachment into this village has increased and cultivations have been destroyed. These parents undergo various challenges amidst extreme poverty so their children can have access to education.
We survive on breadfruit for now. We also managed to cook some rice and a curry. We cannot send the children to school alone because of the monkeys and serpents. It is also impossible to send a girl child to school alone. My husband is unemployed because he needs to go to school to pick them up. My children don't like to carry big bags as well. We survive on whatever means possible. We are living in a somewhat isolated situation.
Vijay Singha and his family, who have been affected by natural disasters and the threat of wildlife attacks while starving, voices the struggles of many in Sri Lanka. Who will make way for these people to overcome these issues? And when will that happen?
For our people who are starving, for those who suffer in silence, for the people in need, breaking barriers and bringing hope to their lives across rural Sri Lanka. Gammadda, for the people, by the people.
Chinas Yuanwang Biotech Group Company Limited, the Chinese fertilizer company that was at the center of an organic fertilizer shipment controversy, denied reports that it took back the performance bond back, according to the ruling of the Chinese court.
The Chinese company said that the performance bond is automatically invalid after expiration because the relevant parties of Sri Lanka failed to fulfill the commitment of letters of credit renewal, resulting in the expiry of letters of credit. It also added that according to the supplementary agreement reached between our company and Sri Lankan side in February 2022, both sides shall continue to perform the organic fertilizer project. It is said, unfortunately, up to now, Chinas Yuanwang Biotech Group has not received any substantial response or positive action from Sri Lankan related parties. The project has caused great losses to Chinas Yuanwang Biotech Group, and the long-time inaction of Sri Lankan related parties has led to the lack of fertilizer in agriculture and also damaged the interest of Sri Lankan farmers. Chinas Yuanwang Biotech Group rejected the proposal of providing chemical fertilizer instead of organic fertilizer put forward by the relevant parties of Sri Lanka on the following grounds. 1. The bidding project and the subject matter agreed in the contract are organic fertilizers instead of chemical fertilizers, and we are not obliged to provide chemical fertilizers. 2. Our company is a professional manufacturer of organic fertilizers and seaweed fertilizers, not a chemical fertilizers manufacturer, and does not have the conditions to produce chemical fertilizers. 3. According to China's current export policy, chemical fertilizers cannot be exported. According to the introduction of relevant parties in Sri Lanka, one of the main reasons for its failure to complete the import of organic fertilizer is that the domestic organic fertilizer standard does not match the standard agreed in the contract.
An extraordinary gazette was issued revising the water and sewage tariffs in Sri Lanka, with the water consumption fee increased by 70% and service charges skyrocketing by 500%.
An extraordinary gazette was issued by the Minister of Water Supply and Drainage, Kihiliya Rambukwella, increasing the water tariff with effect from the 1st of September 2022. The tariff revision was made in terms of Section 84 of the National Water Supply and Drainage Board Law No. 2 of 1974.
In short, we charge 60% of domestic water consumers 310 rupees for 15 units and 15,000 litres of water. According to the new water tariff system, 705 rupees will be charged for 15 units and 15,000 litres. Water charges for non-domestic water consumers will increase by 40% to 50%. Only 8% are non-domestic consumers.
The tariff imposed on place of worship and schools remain unchanged. In addition, there is no change to the water tariff on Samruddhi beneficiaries. Further, there will be no change to the consumption fee for slums and estates. The service charge will be increased from 50 rupees to 100 rupees. Water tariff for non-domestic water consumers have been increased by 40 to 50%, and there is no increase in a service charge. How will annual water fee increase in future? The National Water Supply and Drainage Board Deputy General Manager P.L. Padmanath said that the Cabinet has received approval to revise water charges annually.
The Minister of Energy, Kanchana Wijesekara, says that he plans to reduce the fuel queues within the next 2 days. In a tweet, the minister said that he reviewed fuel distribution and instructed to distribute additional stocks of all products island-wide in the next 3 days. Moreover, the minister acknowledged that long fuel queues have been created and reasoned that lapses in distribution, delays in unloading and delays in payments for orders by fuel stations has created these long lines. More local news, multiple trades have expressed their inability to import material to Sri Lanka and to settle dues in the face of the economic crisis.
The government must not make an ad hoc decision. When ad hoc decisions are made, businesses are affected. The import restrictions need to be reviewed and will allow Sri Lanka to grow from its present situation. 300 or more imports have been restricted. I represent the apparel sector. That is used to be 80% self-sufficient. That prevents the outflow of US dollars. The import restrictions are making it difficult for the apparel sector to grow.
We need to import essentials and essential raw material to boost domestic production so that it will create a market for the people. They have suspended the imports of material required for the construction sector. These are pipes, water motors, roofing sheets, aluminium and tiles. How can we build a house without this material? Even during the COVID era, there were imported tiles. A system existed and those who joined the then government to stop imports for local production. Today, the prices have been increased by the mafia.
News First with the people.
The Ministry of Fisheries said another 911 million rupees was received as compensation to be awarded to the Sri Lankan fishermen who were affected by the fire that broke out on board the Express Pearl cargo vessel in the seas of Colombo. The Ministry of Fisheries said Express Pearl insurers made the compensation payment. Sri Lanka's Ministry of Fisheries said it was given 911 million by the insurers of the Express Pearl as a compensation payment, and that arrangements will be made to distribute this money among 15,032 fishermen identified in Gampaha, Colombo and Kalutura districts. All fishermen affected by the Express Pearl maritime disaster, depending on their type of vessel, method of fishing and loss of income, received 80,000 rupees to 240,000 rupees as compensation thus far. Environmental organizations highlight that the reports on providing compensation for Sri Lankan fishermen are an attempt to fool the people. Out of the $42 million demanded, only $5 million was paid as compensation on 2 separate occasions. When government institutions briefed the public in this regard, they said that the compensation will be paid in million rupees and not $1 million. This could mislead the public. They are doing this intentionally. The Centre for Environmental Justice also raised concerns over the delay in receiving claimed compensation for the New Diamond vessel oil spill in the Sea of Sri Lanka. It claims that Sri Lanka will not be able to claim compensation after a few days. Only around $1 million have been paid to Sri Lanka as compensation for the incident, while around $22 million must be paid. A fire erupted on the empty New Diamond on the 2nd of September 2020. company. Sri Lanka will only be able to take judicial action over this incident until the 2nd of September 2022. We believe that Sri Lanka will not be able to claim compensation for the incident after that. On the 3rd of September 2020, a fire was reported on board the Panama-flagged crude oil tanker MT New Diamond. Sri Lanka demanded full compensation from the shipping company for the cost to contain the fire and for the environmental destruction that was caused. However, only a portion of it was received. 20th of May 2021, another maritime disaster. A fire on board the MV Express Pearl. It was carrying 1,486 containers, including 81 dangerous good containers and 25 tons of nitric acid. 17th of June 2021, the vessel that caught fire off Colombo and eventually sank, creating the worst maritime disaster in Sri Lankan history. Carcasses of marine creatures continue to wash ashore since a fire erupted on board the Express Pearl vessel. Sri Lanka's coastal belt was badly affected. While similar incidents were reported in other countries across the world, the relevant organizations demanded compensation in billions of dollars. Even after such a massive disaster, certain Sri Lankan authorities operated in a lethargic manner. Shouldn't adequate compensation be provided to a maritime ecosystem that was severely affected by the Express Pearl disaster? Or is Sri Lanka going to delay the process once again, just like it did with the compensation for MT New Diamond, who is responsible for the loss of billions of dollars due to Sri Lanka? For your attention. Search continues for missing youth. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa stated that the battle for Ranjan Ramanayaka's freedom is far from over. If someone assumes the fight for him is over, it is far from over. We secured a 50% win. He was denied his civic rights. I have to take 3 decisions. He will join the SJB parliamentary group from tomorrow, and we will consider him as an MP. Even after Ranil Wickremesinghe came in, I was asked to become Prime Minister. Some said I wanted to, but I was afraid. But in fact, I was ashamed and afraid. We need to secure complete freedom for Ranjan Ramanayaka. He will not harm anyone, except for one group, and that is the group of thieves. We do not need to protect the thieves. A kite festival to express dissent by the Aragalaya protesters was organized at the Golfers Green on Saturday, and Sri Lanka police caused obstructions to this event.
Today we see that the democratic right of the people to express their view and the right to assembly has been suppressed. This is a blow to a democratic society. We cannot remain silent. As a group, we oppose the suppression. Today we join to show that we are against the suppression and the government that Ranil is engaged in with the Rajapaksas. We will rise against them, and this is a message to the people to not take this serious situation as a joke.
People held a protest at the Liberty Roundabout in Colombo on Saturday evening.
Protest took place in Colombo on Saturday against suppression and calling for a change.
I don't agree with what they are doing. They are taking all the innocent children, the youth, into custody, but the real crooks are still out at large and in parliament. So for me, I just wanted to come and protest against that. And I want them to please repeal this PTA and be fair. We want a fair and just society.
Sri Lanka is a paradise. It's a beautiful country. The people are amazing. They help each other in ways that one could not imagine. But with the current situation, even though it's a paradise, it's turning into a hell for some people. Think about the people who are earning on a day-to-day basis. Laborers, wage workers, aren't they suffering a lot? Maybe something can be done to make it more affordable for people to live. People don't have basic staples in their house to eat.
Sri Lanka's former finance minister wants people to let go of protests and support the state.
Former Finance Minister of Sri Lanka, Ravi Karunanayake, said the people must abandon protest and support the economic policies adopted by the government.
Today, the International Monetary Fund questions as to why we are asking them for the same thing, while the initiatives taken in 2015 are still the same. The Secretary Samaratunga, the then Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, and myself, the former Finance Minister Nandalal, who was there in the CBSL, it is the same set of people now as well. Today, the President is Ranil Wickremesinghe. Samaratunga is a special representative of the President. Nandalal is the Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. And finally, they are urging their demands to be satisfied. So we can't do these things by holding placards and shouting. The youth in this country is very strong, so a strong leadership should be given to them. And that is how we are able to move forward.
පුරා ගලන මේ සතුට සුරක්ෂිත කරන්නේ ඉස්ලාම් ඉන්සයිඩ්. ඉස්ලාම් ජීවයයි ජලයයි ජීවිතේ.
The bodies of 3 of the 4 youth who went missing while swimming in Dehigaspa Falls in Pittabadara were found on Saturday. The search for the other missing man was suspended by the Southern Naval Command later in the day. 4 people from a group of 12 who were swimming near the Dehigaspa Falls in Pittabadara were reported missing on Friday, and a search was launched to locate them. The escape turned into tragedy, and the body of Malita Udayanga, one of the missing men, was discovered on Saturday following a joint operation by the divers from the Southern Naval Command, Sri Lanka Police and locals. Malita Udayanga was 24 when he met with an untimely death and was a resident of Akurasa. The remains of 22-year-old Jayasankar Sriwardana was recovered later on Saturday morning, and he was a resident from Valigama. The body of 23-year-old Sachika Dilshan was recovered on Saturday evening following the intervention of the locals. He was a resident of Ahangama and was the father of a 2-year-old little girl. The man who remains missing is 24-year-old Manushka Yeshan from the Yandara. After the news of the missing youth spread, the body of a 20-year-old woman who was reported missing from the area was recovered from Ransagoda.
එහෙන් කෝල් එකක් කියලා තියෙන්නේ පිරිමි ළමයා මැරිලා කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ මෙයා හයියෙන් මඩලා දිනවා අර එහා පැත්තේ අයින්.
The third phase of the DIVI SEVI program, supported by LOLC Holdings, continues in a bid to help the worst affected by the economic crisis in Sri Lanka. On the 22nd day of the third phase, essential food packages were distributed to the poverty-stricken families in the Matale district.
Essential food packages were distributed to 2 locations in the Matale district today under the DIVI SEVI program. The program is supported by LOLC Holdings. The DIVI SEVI program identifies families that are facing serious issues economically and provides them with much needed relief packages.
In your sports news, the first match of the Asia Cup 2022 got underway between Sri Lanka and Afghanistan in Dubai today. And Sri Lanka, who were invited to bat first, were restricted to 105 runs in 19.4 overs, setting a target of 106 runs for Afghanistan. Sri Lanka opened their Asia Cup campaign with a poor start against Afghanistan, losing their top 3 batsmen inside 5 runs. Tilaka and Banaka Rajapaksa pushed the host to 49, and then the former was dismissed. Rajapaksa eventually fell for 38 later in the innings as wickets fell around him. Samika Karunaratne, who had the second best score in the innings, was dismissed for 31 runs, closing Sri Lanka's innings at 105 runs in 19.4 overs.
Got straight up. It might. Yes, it does. Yeah! Oh, again. Excitement.
A big appeal, massive appeal. And enjoy this. That should be taken. That's up in the air. An easy catch. Wicket number 9. Oh, that's going to be close to the waist. It will be a boundary. That's a beautiful shot. Stand and deliver on a boundary. Bowling. Great length from Faruqi. That is the end of the innings, and he does.
St. Peter's College, Colombo issued a statement on Saturday to address reports that it fielded an ineligible player for the school's rugby tournament 2022.
The Colombo school said that the Ministry of Education granted permission, making the concerned student eligible to follow advanced level classes. A statement noted that the matter was addressed to the Sri Lanka Schools Rugby Football Association on the 9th of August 2022, and the college was not given due hearing, nor was any decision conveyed to the St. Peter's College with reasons. It added that on the 26th of August 2022, a day prior to the Under-19 President's Trophy Knockout Rugby Tournament 2022, an alleged determination was conveyed imposing penalties on St. Peter's College with no reason provided. The statement noted that St. Peter's College is advising itself of its immediate and future course of action.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV1. For details of these stories and much more, simply log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. For the News First, where the people come first, I'm Martin Satyanesan. You take care and good night.